Good afternoon. I'm about to start digging the trench across between the fence and the house for the water line and the electric cable. Excuse the, I think it sounds like it's a sander going in the background over at the neighbour's place, or one of the neighbours. And so in preparation for digging that trench, because I know there was a tree nearby, I'm gathering up my reciprocating saw and some other things to head down and do that. The other day when I was in the hardware store, I discovered that there's a new to me anyway, type of blade for the reciprocating saw. So up until now, for cutting tree roots and things, I've been using this one for the job, which has done a pretty good job. But I've discovered that they've now brought out what they call a pruning blade, which is this one. And as you can see, if I hold one on top of the other, you can see that the teeth are a bit different. As in, the pruning blade, which is the one on the bottom, is designed to cut in both directions. It's probably the best way to put it. Whereas the top one, which was what I've been using up until now, is obviously just designed to cut when it's pulling back. And so I tried it out the other day, and it works really well for cutting through roots and things like that. That is what I'll be using today. Let's get on with it. This handy dandy shovel is one that my father made out of a square mouth shovel many years ago, and it's a handy little shovel because of the curve. It's quite good for doing jobs like this, as opposed to my long-handled spade, which is of a less acute angle. So handy today. As you can hear, there was a reasonable amount of shingle to scrape away from under where the concrete once was. Below that shingle is the stormwater pipe that goes from the end of the concrete gutter. This pipe goes out under the fence and down to the stormwater drain that runs down to the sump down by the letterbox at the bottom of the drive. It goes from there to the stormwater in the road. When I reinstate the concrete, I will need to seal the end of the gutter around that pipe. 2 or 3 years ago, I noticed that the concrete path had moved away from the house. I assumed that this was ground movement or earthquake consequences or something like that. As part of this process that I'm doing now, I discovered that there's a reasonable sized tree root that has come across from the tree. You'll learn more about that later. And when it has hit the house foundation, it has continued down the side of the house between the foundation and the path. What has happened over time is that the root has grown bigger, and as a result, the path has been pushed away from the house. Tree roots are very powerful forces and can have quite destructive consequences. A little anecdote here to illustrate the point. When my wife was a young child at school, her class went to either a pine plantation or a propagation area for a field trip. She came home with a pine seedling, which her dad dutifully planted in the garden at the front of the house. I don't expect that he thought it would survive, as it was quite wilted when he planted it. Fast forward some 20 years, and there was a sizable pine tree at the front of their home. As will happen, because tree roots seek out water sources, by this time the sewer drain that went past the tree started to give problems. This giving wasn't of a desirable kind. Also, the concrete path by the garden had been quite extensively damaged by the upward pressure of the growing roots. After consultation with my father-in-law, I cut the tree down and we removed the tree roots that were both blocking the drain and breaking the path. Trees are a wonderful thing to have in the right place. Unfortunately, what can happen is that their situation, or location if you like, changes over time. I'll come back to that in a minute or two. This is reasonably hard going, as you can probably tell. And I need to go down 600 millimeters where it's not under the concrete. So where it's under the concrete, i.e. from here to there, that can just be under the concrete. Although I've gone down a bit more than that because I want to put some soft material over the top of the water pipe particularly before it is concreted over. And I've got to make my way across to that post on the left of the gate there. It may well become more difficult in the top part with tree roots and things, and here's why. There used to be a quite large variegated Pohutukawa bush tree here, which I took out a number of years ago, but the tree roots are obviously still alive and well. Well, they're not alive and well, but they're tough going. And I have just been to get my secateurs to deal with some of these smaller roots. And quick tip, always keep a good sharp pair of secateurs in your car. They can be used for all manner of things. They're quite good at trimming irrigation tube or even something as big as the blue line. I've also known them to be used for trimming mouth guards that didn't quite fit very well. Chicken mesh they can cope with mostly. What else? Oh, occasionally doing some tree pruning, but definitely a set of secateurs in your car is a good thing to have. Let's carry on. Just been down to give my draining spade a bit of a tickle up with the grinder. It'll go through the roots better with that. Coming back to the trees, an example of the situation of a tree changing around them. What follows is what happened some 30 plus years ago to both our property and land adjacent to it. The village in which we live was first established by the government in 1860. As the landscape was reasonably barren of trees, the landowners planted many trees, including red and white gum trees that are native to Australia, and redwoods were also planted. Some of these trees are still thriving today, particularly up in Tamata Park and the foothills of Tamata Peak. As the village has grown to a sizable town, more and more houses have populated the area. When we first came to our current home in 1986, there were very few houses on our southern side and quite a number of very large gum trees. The plot of land adjacent to us was divided up for housing, and there are now about 10 houses on it. When the weather is dry for extended periods, gum trees are designed to shed branches, sometimes quite large branches. It would have been unsafe to retain the trees as part of the subdivision, and so all the gums are now gone. This is the grub stage of a cicada insect. They hide underground through the winter and then crawl out when it is warmer, climb up the nearest tree, and that is where they hatch into a cicada. In pine plantations, you often see the shell still attached to the tree where they left it. If you've ever been in or even driven through a pine plantation in New Zealand in the summer, the sound the cicadas make by rubbing their hind legs together is almost deafening. It was at this stage I was having to deal with the clay pan. It's not a whole lot of fun. It's very hard to dig. Often you have to get out a bar, but I managed without, with the aid of my trusty draining spade. Here we are, an hour and a half later. I do have a trench. It's probably only about 2 metres long to there and a metre across there. But it is done. Feeling a bit that way myself. Time for a cup of tea and a biscuit. Good afternoon. It was a bit cloudy this morning, not that pleasant, but this afternoon is back to normal. Reception has resumed, and so I need to get on and get this cable in up into the board, and also do some work at the other end. In order to put a little bit of pressure on myself, I asked Electric Drawn to book in for Thursday, which is the day after tomorrow, and hopefully I can get this bit done this afternoon, and then tomorrow, I might get all of it done, but we will see. So I shall put you over on the fence here, and then we'll go from there. To fix the conduits to the inside of the drain, I'll call it. It's more of a gutter than a drain. I'm using stainless steel one-sided saddles or half saddles, whatever, and what are called tappets. So it's basically a plastic thing that's split down the middle, so that when you put it in, you put it in through the saddle, but when you're putting it in, you've got to be careful not to bang on the end of there, because you don't want to do that. You just bang on the plastic bit, and then once it's in, you bang that in, and it makes this split apart. They're ideal in this sort of situation where there's no real weight or on the fixing. It's really just to hold it there. If there was any particular weight on it, you would use a Dyna bolt or a Terry bolt or something like that. So we progress. against the traps of these kind of things. I've actually got those two elbows in the wrong order, so I'll have to modify the steel work to fit. After a bit of a rejig, it's done. We got there. Take two. Good morning. It is a sunny, cloudy day currently. Supposed to be sunny this afternoon, probably more cloudy tomorrow, and then from Saturday to about next Wednesday it's supposed to be wet and cold. So I want to get this stuff done. Thus far this morning I have taken away all the posts and bits of timber and that were down beside the shed here and put them elsewhere. I've cleaned out under the shed so that I can grovel under there to saddle the conduit. I'll do a quick recap from yesterday. So yesterday afternoon I did the conduit in the drain. Some of that has probably already been in the video. Made a bit of an error with this saddle here and had to redo it, but that's okay, it's all sorted now and glued up. I have Electric John booked for tomorrow, so I need to get on and get what I need to do in the shed done, which is basically clip up the wiring and mount the boxes for the power points and the light switches, and then he will come and do the terminations. And here we are, near the end of another day. What I have done today is run all the wires along behind here for the outside light and also the, where is it? The inside light. And they come around here. So we have a loop of wire here. This is the feed from the house. This is the two light circuits, so one for the outside light, one for the inside light. This loop here is running along here, and one of these will be the inside power point for whatever, but mostly for charging the Ego batteries, and then this one is for the outside power point for using outside or charging an EV or whatever. As well as that, I have mounted the tap here, and I have hooked up the tubing underneath here and on there. And also, if we quickly go down the other end, I have clipped all the blue pipe in under here, which probably you can see. And that goes down through here, and I've thrown some clay on top of it. There will be a protective, I could call it a mat, but it's not really. It's something that you can't drive a steel peg through. So that's required for the electrical. So I've put the water pipe down there as well. That will hopefully stop anybody from sticking a steel pin through that as well. I'm pleased with the day, where I'm up to. Hopefully by the end of tomorrow we will have both water and electricity at the shed. Bye for now. Good afternoon. There was a red sky this morning. As I think I mentioned previously, they're forecasting a good old dousing of rain over the next few days. Electric John came this morning, and so we now have power in the shed. We have a little switchboardy thing up here with circuit breakers and things in it. We have PowerPoint. Well, PowerPoints, yes, probably. And also the light switch. And a PowerPoint over here as well. The outside PowerPoint has been delayed because I want a specific one that the EV cables can plug into, and that's not what John had, so he will come back another day and sort that out. But that's good, that is now done. And also this morning I started filling in the trench down here and put the cable protector over it. So this is the kind of matting stuff that I talked about. That's just a bit that was left at the end that I've put there, but that is all buried under here, and then more clay on top of it, and then there's just this ribbon that you put on top of that. So that should someone start digging, they come to that ribbon first and hopefully get the message. And if anybody drives a metal peg down through there, and hence they wouldn't see the ribbon, the other matte shield will stop them going any further. I will finish off filling in that trench because I don't really want it to fill up with water. That's the next job to do this afternoon. And just a quick look here, we also now have a outside light on the shed here, a sensor light. That's to light the area down where people park their cars. Yes, I can hear you. That'll do for now. I need to crack on and get that trench done. The rain's not scheduled to arrive until evening. We've had a few spits off and on during the day, but nothing of any consequence thus far. Okie dokie. I'll see you later. Good morning. It's another day of working on the reticulation of the electricity and water to the shed. Well, include that in the video. Blah blah blah. And I've just realized that I think this is recording sideways. We may have to do this all again.